My name is Seema Goel, and I produced a piece for the 8 Rooms exhibit. And it is a piece that is activated by the viewer. That's a hand-cranked wall of paper butterflies. So my art practice is very much wedded to materials and the idea of mining the material meaning, and then also connecting across art and science, and specifically across art and wildlife and our relationship to animals. And that is a theme I didn't realize until I had been through art school and graduate school and making things for a long time, that I became increasingly aware that everything I make is basically a question about how we relate to the animals in our environment and what we do with them and what they symbolize for us and how we use them and how we connect with them. My room from the exhibit is a curved stage that is populated by some butterflies. I think there's about 30 or 40. And they are made out of paper that's been dyed with plant material. And they are activated by a crank so that the viewer can turn the crank and the butterflies gently open and close at different rhythms. The piece that is actually in the gallery is not the piece that was in the film. I had to remake the piece for the gallery. Because for a film, having worked in film myself, I know that it doesn't need to be perfect. So I actually had a completely different object that was made. And it was paper in a foam core form. In front of it were all the butterflies, and behind it were all the strings. And I had 6 people with me when the film was being shot, standing behind there and pulling the strings. So we were called the Mariposa marionetters. And the filmmaker would call out, a little bit more on the right, a little bit more, and we would flutter more quickly or more loosely, and everybody had a few strings because we were all pulling in from different parts. So it was originally planned as like somebody's finger in this. And that's why in the gallery, the cranking doesn't work quite as well because the engineering is not as strong as this is. But then for the gallery, I didn't want to show what was essentially dilapidated paper collapsing structure because I am actually a sculptor. So I wanted it to have a gallery level presentation. I work really collaboratively even when something is a solo piece. And so for me, a lot of people helped me with this process. There were a whole group of artists that made butterflies with me. There were other people who helped me build that maquette structure and the structure that ended up in the gallery. There was somebody that I had a studio assistant come and help me string all those butterflies. So I had an engineering friend tell me about how the engineering worked. I had so much help throughout the entire project, and I'm so grateful for the many people that contributed to the piece. The most wonderful thing about this piece for me was actually being invited to be part of the project by some really illustrious members of the art community, but also to be forced to make some work again. And this not only made me get back to the studio, but it also challenged me to work in a way that I never had before. So I really appreciate that opportunity. I would particularly like to thank Anita and Diana for having me as part of the show, and to the whole group, because they really are an incredible group of women and artists, and I learned a tremendous amount through the process.